Okay, good morning. I'm just going to preface this video by saying I'm no kind of professional mechanic in any way, but probably not even a very competent amateur, but I bought a boat with a DV20 engine in it, Bukh DV20, and I came across this one as a spare for spare parts. It wasn't running, and I've actually got another old one as a spare as well, and I put those two together and robbed parts off the other one and managed to get this one going. I had it all the way stripped apart, right down to the crankshaft out and the camshaft and injector pump and oil pump, to refurbish everything and just basically learn how it all gets put together and works. And so I used the manual and online forums and whatnot to learn about it. Anyway, it runs again, so that's good. Here's the data for the injector timing, right? So the video is going to be about the process of finding out how to adjust the timing for the injector pump, the spill point timing. So the manual says 14.71 degrees before top dead center, and if you measure that around the flywheel, it says 50 millimeters. So when I had the head off this engine, I could observe where the top of the pistons were and decipher top dead center exactly, and I marked it with a reference point of a straight edge along the edge of the block, where near close to where the kind of starter motor would be, but that was off. So I just put a row of punch marks on there. So top dead center, when that straight edge is lined up with these punch marks, that's exactly top dead center. And then I came around 50 mil before. So this engine advances in clockwise direction like this. So before that, there's a punch mark there that denotes 50 millimeters before top dead center. So that should be the injector pump spill point cut out. So I've got a fuel supply rigged up there that's above the engine, so gravity will do the job of the lift pump. I've also pulled off one of the fuel injector lines that goes up to an injector from the pump and got rid of that. And you have to pull out this delivery valve housing, which is the lower nut there. Undo that, and then inside there's a little spring and a delivery valve that you carefully pull out with a pair of tweezers or something and drop it into some diesel like that, just to keep it clean and don't lose track of it. There's a little washer in there. Once you've done that, I just found I had this old piece of fuel line here off the other old engine that had a crack in it up the other end. So I used this good end and where there's a bend in it and made this little sort of a swan neck tool, if you like, that'll help us observe where the spill point is. Okay, so when that's all rigged up, also I should mention that have the governor open for this so that fuel will flow freely, and also make sure your stop magnet's not engaged, and have your decompression levers so you can turn the flywheel without resistance. Now if I turn the flywheel around, fuel should flow out like that, and that'll flow out like that all the way around until just before top dead center where it cuts out. So the idea of this process is to see where exactly that cuts out. So flows, cuts out. So just go a bit before it cuts out, and then advance the engine in the direction that it goes, clockwise, just approaching that 50 mil mark, millimetre by millimetre. And then it'll cut out. So here we go. It's flowing, 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 coming up to that 50 mil mark. Drips start to slow down and stop. You want that one to just hang on the end of there without dripping. Another millimetre. There's one on the end there, and if it doesn't drip within about 15 seconds or so, I think I read somewhere. Now if I go a little bit, reverse a little bit back and just do that again, a bit fast, you've got to do this really slowly, just get those drips to stop. Still going there. Just another hair further. Okay, that one's just stopped right there. Okay, so, and then straight edge and find your reference mark. And look at that. Well, you can't see, but I can see that it's right on that punch mark. So what I had to do, it wasn't originally, so these are the, so it depends on how much you torque these down. So if they're all torqued down to the right torque, and there's little shims under here that you can't see, but there's little tiny shims under there, I had to pull a shim out because the pump was, now let me think about this. If it's too early, it means it's down too low, and you've got to shim it up a bit. So mine was actually too late. So as the cams were coming around to drive the followers on the lift pump, they were engaging a bit too late. So I had to drop the pump down a bit so that they'd engage a little bit sooner. And you've got to faff with that until you get it exactly right. So I just had to take a shim out, and it got it within a millimetre of 50 mil. So that's the process. And the engine runs fairly well, so I don't know if I did something right or not, but it seems to have worked.